So welcome to the thing session today. We're really pleased that you've joined us. We have a small but select group of people. Thank you very much. My name's Fiona, and along with my colleagues Jenny, Daniel, John, Mohammed and Denise, we all work at the Lifelong Learning Centre at Leeds University. The Lifelong Learning Centre is really for adults who are considering their education and want to know a bit more. So a lot of what we do is provide information and guidance to anybody who hasn't got a degree already, who's thinking about what they can do. And our guidance is impartial. So we're not trying to recruit for Leeds University. We're trying to give people information that's really best for them. And that's very much what the aim of today's session is. So we've called it Ask Us Anything. So hopefully we'll be able to answer your questions. And we've got our guidance worker and Denise here, who'll be running our session. So you'll be able to ask them questions throughout the session, but you'll also be able to make a one-to-one guidance appointment with them afterwards if you'd like to. We'll also send out all the materials from the session at the end. To start off, what we're going to ask you to do is, oh, sorry, I jumped ahead of myself. I'm now going to introduce Mohammed and Denise to talk a little bit about themselves. Over to you, Mohammed and Denise.
Thank you. So I'm Denise. As Fiona's just said, myself and Mohammed work as the guidance officers within the Lifelong Learning Centre. Because we're trained careers advisors, we do offer impartial advice, so we can talk to you about all the routes that are available to you, whether they're at the University of Leeds or not. Everything we talk about is completely confidential. When we have one-to-one guidance appointments, everything is tailored to suit your needs. Everybody's got different backgrounds, different qualifications, different circumstances. So we talk about you and what's best for you. We can talk about which course might suit you, whether it's part-time, full-time, at what level. We can talk to you about the entry requirements, and don't worry if you don't have the traditional entry requirements, because there's often different ways around that if you're joining us as a mature student. We can talk about the career direction you want to go in. We can talk to you about how you're going to fund your studies, and we can talk about how you're going to manage to fit in study around all the other family and work commitments that you might have. So if you wanted to book a one-to-one guidance appointment, your appointment would be with myself or Mohammed, and we'll just talk about whatever you want to ask us about, which is a little bit like what we're going to do today. Thank you. Do you want to say anything, Mohammed?
Yeah. Hello, my name is Mohammed. Yes, me and Denise are the guidance officers within the Lifelong Learning Centre. But more importantly, we work with admissions tutors across the university. So if you were interested in any courses, either at the university or any other institution, what we can do is give you that insider information in terms of what admissions tutors are looking for, what the courses are like, what the destination data looks like in terms of once people have graduated from their degrees, what's it like for mature students out into the labour market with a degree, say, from the University of Leeds, or a degree from, say, Leeds Beckett or Huddersfield University. We have all that data comes to us, so we look at that data so we can give you that information. And also we work very closely with the admissions tutors, and again, you know, that's our aim, is to try and help mature applicants put their best foot forward in terms of an application for higher education, be it at Leeds or elsewhere. Okay.
Thanks very much, Mohammed. So you can see we've got a wealth of experience and information that we can offer you. So hopefully we'll be able to answer your questions today. So to start us off, we thought it might be useful if you would like to just write down a few words about what you'd like to know about in the white screen here. And I know we've already had a few specific questions, but just to help us to think about maybe the areas. So don't write your whole question in, but if it's something about I mean, I know you've already said midwifery, was that Joe, and something maybe about masters in that. If you know, do just write down a few words, and that will just help us to start thinking about more specific questions. So to use the whiteboard, you just need to click on the T at the top, which opens a text box, and you can write whatever you want. So I've just written hi. Not very exciting. Thank you. We've got midwifery there. Brilliant. So we'll definitely be able to answer that question. Have we got anything else? I think it's actually nice that we haven't got a audience today, because hopefully we'll be able to answer your questions in a lot of detail. So do just put anything down that you think about. One thing might lead to another as well. So anything you think about, there's no such thing as stupid as a silly question. Oh, I got a place on PhE, undecided about which degree to progress to. That's a really good area to think about. Yes, and then you've asked if I can join a master's program for my bachelor's degree. That's fantastic that you're thinking about masters. I'm really pleased. I've got a really good question. Am I really doing the right degree to advance my career? Excellent question, because degrees are so important for careers, and where degrees can lead into is such an important thing to consider before you start. Okay, so have we got, I think we might have everybody's questions. Should we just give you maybe a little bit longer if you put anything else in? So we've got, yeah, we've got questions around midwifery, PhE, and then which degree to progress to, if I can join a master's program, and what's the right degree to advance my career. So I've got some spread of questions. If there's anything on finance people might like to know, please do ask that, or anything about previous qualifications or different pathways. Okay, well that's lovely. I think we'll start off with a question about midwifery, and sorry, that was yours, wasn't it, Bethany? You'd like to be a midwife, but you're not sure how to go about it. So put that one to Mohammed.
Yeah.
You would like to tell us a bit about midwifery and where you start, really. So Mohammed, can you, do tell us a little bit about how somebody might get into midwifery. Maybe you're having problems with your internet. Denise.
Oh dear, do you want me to take over?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, with midwifery, it depends really where you're starting from in terms of your entry qualifications. The Midwifery and Nursing Council do ask that you have 5 A to Cs at GCSE, or in the new language grade 4 or above. And those are to include maths, English and science. So if you've already got that basis, then we'd be looking at a level 3 course. If you don't have those 5 A to Cs and you are a mature student, then you could join one of our foundation programs through the University of Leeds. And for that, we have an agreement with our midwifery course that we can accept mature students who have some related work experience onto our midwifery course with just the maths and English GCSEs. So that would be your first port of call. If you've got your basis of 5 GCSEs, or you were going to come to the University of Leeds as an adult with experience and you had your A to Z in maths and English, and you could then be looking at what the level 3 progression would be. Now that means that if you don't already have A levels or something like a BTEC National, the choices would be you could do an access to higher education course at Leeds City College, or you could come to ourselves, and there are 2 foundation routes that we offer that could lead you into midwifery. So one of those is a course that's designed especially for adults called Preparation for Higher Education, and that would take place on an evening, 2 evenings a week. Or alternatively, if you prefer the scientific route, we do have an interdisciplinary science foundation year, which is more science-based. You will get science on the PHE, but this is a little bit heavier. And there you would do all of your sciences for the full year. Each of those would lead you into midwifery. Does that answer your question, Bethany, or is there anything else that you'd need to know from us? Mohammed, would you like to step in?
Yeah, in terms of midwifery, just to say that all healthcare courses are oversubscribed, so it's really important to try and get your best to apply to get the best application possible, and that's really about trying to look at all your experiences, including life experience at home, maybe looking after an elderly person, and also any voluntary or placements you've done. Now, if you haven't done any placements or any voluntary, I would really urge you to think about registering as a volunteer with, if you're in Leeds, with the Leeds NHS Trust. So there's different schemes with the maternity units here in Leeds and say Bradford. That can really help with strengthening the application, and where admissions tutors are looking at, what they do is they tend to look at mature applications separately from the standard age applications, and when they are looking at your application, any experiences which you can talk about which relate to the caring field will be invaluable. So that's something I would urge you to think about. But again, if you come for a guidance interview with us here at the university, we're more than happy to, do an action plan with you and point you in the right direction.
Thanks very much, Mohammed. And Mohammed's drawn our attention to the screen here. We've got a lot of links on volunteering in Leeds in the NHS. So we'll send these links around to you after, because there's lots of information there. And yeah, Bethany will send you the link to make a guidance appointment with Mohammed or Denise as well. So is there anything else you'd like to ask about midwifery? Or have we covered it so far? If there is, do just let us know. But we will move to the next question then, which was around PhD and which degree should I do? And I wasn't sure who that was from, but if you'd like to write more information in the, please do, and we'll answer your question about that. So Mohammed, do you want to start us off?
Yeah.
Which degree?
Yes. So obviously, again, this is where we can really help. What we can do is we take a holistic approach to helping people decide on which types of degrees may be more suitable for them. I mean, what we don't do is tell you what degree to do, but what we will do is get you to a position where you can enable yourself to make the decisions. Now, the things what I always say is look at your strengths, try and build on experiences you've already have. So, if you, for example, have been working in commerce, in business, and you've done really well, but you don't have a professional or an academic qualification which will help you get to the next level in that role or in that field, then thinking about a starting point of building from where you are is always a good starting point. Now, sometimes you want to change careers, and again, we can help with that, and we can help you look at the different strengths you may have, and more importantly, the dispositions certain professions look for, so like the healthcare, in terms of having empathy, sympathy, being able to work with, say, if you want to work in a clinical setting such as a nurse with blood, all these type of questions we will put to you and you would put to yourself before we'd help you look for the right degree which would lead ultimately to the career you want. I mean, I have to say that 70% of our graduates from the University of Leeds go into a role which is not related to their degree. So a degree in itself will help you open up opportunities, and so therefore doing a degree in itself is gonna open, and sometimes that whole idea about transferable skills as a graduate is what's more important than the actual named degree. Do you want to add anything there, Denise?
Oh, just to say, sorry, I've seen in the chat Jo's asking when she needs to make a choice of which course she needs to pick PHE, and she's asking whether or not through PHE she could get an idea of what she might have to follow. What I'd just like to say there is courses, our foundation years, the way that we structure them is that they are attached to a set degree programme, which means that before you start the foundation year, you have to know which degree you're going to go on to, which is why PhD have said that they'd love to have you as a student, but unless you know which direction you're going to go into, they won't be able to offer you a place. So that's where you might like to think about what you'd like to do beyond that PhD year, so that then you know which degree you're going to go on, progress to. Once you start on our foundation years, you don't have to make another application. As long as you get the right qualifications and the grades throughout that year, you'll progress straight away onto the degree course, which is why I made that choice first. On the screen at the moment, we've got some quizzes you might like to think about doing. What the quiz would do is give you a career aim, and then if you had a career aim, it would be easy for us to find the degree that would lead you in that direction. The way that career quizzes work is they ask you about what you'd like from a career, and then it matches what you'd say you'd like from a career to all the careers that are in its data bank. So that might give you some ideas, because then you could read about the suggestions that come up and see if any of them feel right for you. But we could talk about that in a careers interview if you'd like to do that individually.
Thank you, Denise. And just to add to this, said that she's thinking about professional studies, and when might she have to decide that by, before she starts PhD, or maybe during PhD? And maybe you could tell us a bit about professional studies as well.
Yeah, can I just say that part of the selection for preparation for higher education, PhD, is you have to be able to say which degree you'd like to progress onto. So when the admissions are looking at your application, they expect you to have a fairly good idea. I mean, you could have a couple of ideas, but they would want to see something on that application in terms of because what they then do is work with the receiving degree department. So for example, if you want to do professional studies, the admissions tutors will work with the director of that program to allocate you a place. Equally, if you wanted to do something like sociology, they'd talk to the Department of Social Sciences to say, look, we've got this person, and hopefully once they've progressed from the PhD program, they'll be moving on to your program. And so then you have a seamless progression to the degree you want once you've completed the PhD. So it's really important to have a fairly good idea. I mean, now there is some flexibility. So for example, if you started on the PhD with an idea of going on to sociology, and partway through you find out more about professional studies, the BA professional studies, you know, we'll try and get you transferred to that progression, and that is possible. But there's other areas, for example, if you start off with sociology and you then decide no, I want to do nursing, it's different entry requirements. And the selection and more importantly the work with progressing with the admissions tutors for the degree of your choice. If that's not been done right at the beginning, it's very difficult mid-year or once you've started the program. Now, BA Professional Studies is a really flexible degree. The most important bit of that degree is that a third of the degree can be in an area of your interest. So for example, if you're interested in doing a more generic degree but have an interest in, say, health and well-being, you can do modules from the School of Healthcare in that area, and that'll give you some specialism in that area. But yeah, so professional studies is a good one to think about if you're not very clear. I mean, it takes professional studies. Some people go on and do a master's in social work to get into social work. Some people will go on and do the PGC primary to become a primary school teacher. Others have gone into probation. So it's really flexible. Denise, do you want to add it?
Just, I've seen Joe's added something into the chat, so I'm just responding to that, if that's all right. So Joe, you're not looking at doing this particularly for a career aim, so you're doing this purely for the enjoyment. What I would say is that do make sure that you read the course content of any degree that you're thinking of going into, just to make sure that you are going to thoroughly enjoy it. You've said that professional studies has been suggested to you, but you're wondering whether or not you have to stick with that. No, you don't. But what they will have to check, the admissions tutor, so many places on their courses, and what we just need to make sure is if you wanted to change your route to go towards sociology instead of professional studies, we just have to make sure that the sociology programme manager had places on their course for you from year 2. But just to say, as Mohammed mentioned, professional studies, you can mould that particular degree to suit whatever you're looking for. So what you could do on that is have the flexibility to pick up some of the modules around sociology. So it might be as flexible as you want it to be anyway. If I was you, I would go back and read the course content of professional studies, read the course content of the sociology, and then get back in touch with the course admissions tutor for PHE and let them know which route it was that you wanted to go down, or come and speak to us again. Is that okay? Has that answered your question?
Much, Denise. And yeah, Joe, if you want any follow-up information, do let us know, because it's obviously a big decision, isn't it? But I'm sure having a good look at the different modules is a good start if you haven't done that already. Okay, thanks very much for that. We'll now move on to a postgraduate question from Annette. Annette, you said, well, we know you've done your BA with us at the Lifelong Learning Centre, and you're thinking about a master's now. And was your question around how can you get onto a master's? If there's anything more specific that you'd like to know, do put it in the chat. But Mohammed, do you want to say anything about getting onto a master's from a bachelor's degree, what people have to think about?
Yes, obviously, in terms of the masters, what you really need to think about is, for starters, what is the for you? What in terms of picking the right masters? Is it to specialize in a certain area? Is that why you want to do a master's? Or is it to enhance your bachelor's degree? Now, some people, depending on the classification sorry, of their first degree, want to enhance their degree, and in terms of how employers look at your degree. Now, some employers have schemes where for certain routes you need a 2-1 in your bachelor's degree. Now, if you don't manage to get the 2-1 and you get, say, 2-2, or you need a first, so most times they'll accept a master's in place of that. So the master's will enhance your bachelor's at least by one classification. So sometimes, you know, that is a good idea to do the masters for that reason. But more than often, students are looking to specialize and gain that in-depth knowledge of a certain area, and that's why they'd be looking at the masters. So it's first of all thinking about why you would want to do it, what you want to specialize in, and then start looking at the institutions which offer that subject area. Once you make a list of the list of courses, you then need to look at the institutions and the departments in terms of, you know, how well respected they are for that subject area. So that's the kind of things you'd be looking at. Denise, do you want to add anything?
Yes, please. I've just been in chat, and that's a qualified SEND tutor, and she's wanting to specialise in special educational needs and disabilities. So just to explain where you'd find that information, the same as looking at undergraduate courses, if you look at UCAS, you can actually do a search for postgraduate courses through UCAS as well. That will give you all of the details of where the courses are actually available, and you'd be able to filter that down to the local area if you wanted to stay within the Yorkshire region. It'll then give you all the information of the different individual universities, and you could read all their course details and make sure it was something that you wanted. You can then also look at open days and make sure that the actual teaching style is the right for you. But I'd do the UCAS search and then read the course details. The courses can be very different from each other, even if they've got the same title. So do make sure that you don't take anything for granted and that you do read all of the course material. Annette, has that answered your question, or is there anything else that you need from us?
I've just noticed that Annette has said she'd like to go to Leeds, and she got a first in her BA, and then, yeah, as you say, qualified as a SEND teacher, and has got a management role. So she's done incredibly well, which is absolutely fantastic, Annette.
Yeah, that's excellent. I mean, with a first, you know, it opens up many opportunities for you, including research in that area. So, you know, people have been known to go straight to either an MPhil or a PhD with a first class honours from Leeds. So, you know, bypassing the masters, all depends on where you want it to take you, and you know, where you see yourself in, say, 5 or 10 years. But with a first, it opens up a lot more opportunities for you. What you need to do is look for the course you're interested in at Leeds, then email the course program, look at the research interests of the people who are going to be teaching that program. Do they fit in with your research interests? Because it could be that you do a master's and you definitely think, right, okay, I want to take this further to a PhD, and it's always a good idea to start off with the academics you're gonna you know, if that's something you're interested in. But with a first, you know, and with solid work experience, you should have no problems in securing a master's, what you need to think about is, would you want to do it part-time, full-time? If you're working as well, you know, would you get day release? And how you obviously part-time you'd be doing it over 2 years, in a year. So all these kind of questions we can help with as well.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Mohammed. That's great. And do contact us. Denise, was there anything else you wanted to add, or do you think we've covered?
No, I think you've covered everything, unless there's any particular questions around funding for masters. I don't know if Annette's happy with that.
Have you got any questions on the funding, Annette? I think with a first class degree, funding should be easier. So Annette said she'd like to study part-time.
Okay. So funding for a master's is a little bit different from funding for an undergraduate course, because instead of being able to draw down funding in 2 lots, one to pay the university fees and one to pay for your maintenance and your upkeep while you're studying, you actually just get one lump sum for a master's that then you've got to pay the university out of and look after yourself as well. Unfortunately, that pot of money is not, which means that there isn't actually enough to support yourself while you're studying and pay the full university fees. So when you're studying for a master's, you do have to think about other routes of getting some funding. And there are various other pots of funding that are available, but you do have to seek them out and apply for them. Sometimes there's special scholarships within some of the universities, so you might need to look at that. But it is a concern, is the funding. You do need to make sure that you're aware that the money you draw down won't cover you the same as your undergraduate funding has done.
Thank
Mohammed,
you.
is there anything you want to add to that?
Yes, just to say, hi, back.
Yeah.
Just to say, you could talk to your employer as well. Sometimes employers have been known to fund masters, especially part-time, where they see it's going to enhance the work in the school, or give them more credibility for a project. So yeah, do think about your employer as well in terms of approaching them. Sometimes they have training budgets, so department may have other training pots where you could access some funding.
Mohammed, I hope we've covered that for you, Annette. Please do contact us. So thanks for all these questions. Please, as questions come to mind, please do just keep them coming. That's fantastic. I'm going to move to a specific question Inga had earlier on, a postgraduate question, and I'm going to read it out because she's given us lots of specific information, which is excellent. So it says, Inga has said, I have been awarded the degree of Licentiate in Economic Sciences in Republic of Moldova in 2012, currently living in the UK, and I'm thinking of doing a master's degree, now something related to business, accounting, finance, or even law. Can I join any master's degree based on this Licentiate degree? And also, what are the language requirements for me, as English is not my native language, and I don't have an IELTS certification? And also, can I apply for finance? So that's quite lots of things to talk about there. Who would, Mohammed, shall we?
I mean, generally, you would be eligible because your degree is from a European country. You would be eligible to apply for master's programs, but obviously each program leader will have varying entry requirements for their program. So it will all depend on, right, it's not an EU country, so right, okay. It'll all depend on if your degree is equivalent to a UK degree. If it is deemed to be equivalent, then you would be eligible to apply for a master's. But it all depends on in terms of how you can relate to the master's you want to do. Is it through professional experience, or is it through the degree you've done already? Is there any link to that? So that's the kind of questions you need to be looking at. To start off with, is it equivalent? And NARIC, which is the national body in the UK, compare your qualifications. You can contact them, send them a scanned copy of your degree, and they'll come back and know if it's equivalent generically. If you want an official equivalency, you'd have to pay a small charge. I think it's around £43 to get that. So that's your starting point. Then what you need to do is look for the program you're interested in, email the program leader. Now, the English qualification is going to be very important. Now, you need the equivalent of the GCSE grade C or above, or grade 4 or above, as a minimum for English. Now, they will take the IELTS, but again, you'd need to fulfill that requirement at the University of Leeds. Most universities have that requirement. Now, some universities will do some English with you, depending on if you're classed as an international student. And again, there's quite high fees for that as well. Denise, do you want to add anything?
No, I think you've covered it all there, Mohammed. I suppose the only other thing to say is that the actual requirements through IELTS could be different for each different course that you do. Yeah. But on the course entry requirements, it will give you that information, so you know exactly what you're aiming towards. As Mohammed said, if you get the GCSE, it's probably the safest and quickest and cheapest route of doing it.
And also, employers within the UK, that's the one they actually recognise, because as you will know, the IELTS is a test, whereas the GCSE is an actual qualification. So even once you've got your master's and you apply for a job, most employers for an English qualification, and unfortunately they don't always recognise the IELTS because it's a test and not a qualification, whereas the GCSE is universally recognised. So it's well worth thinking about doing the GCSE at one of our local community-based centres, or one of the colleges if you're in Leeds or in West Yorkshire or wherever you are.
Thanks very much, Mohammed. And just to add, the GCSEs in Maths and English are free, and they're usually about 2.5 or 3 hours a week. So they are part-time. They're designed for adults. They might be online, I'm sure, but they're usually run by the local colleges. So we'll also, in the information we send at the end, we'll send out a list of GCSE centres in Leeds. If you're based in Leeds, Inga, if you're not, let us know, and we can find some information about GCSEs elsewhere. Denise, you've got your. I'm going to pass over to Denise.
I'm just responding to Inga's last bit in the chat to say that she's got the equivalent of GCSE from a home country. Unfortunately, because it wasn't done in England, you will always have to do an English qualification here, despite even having done English in another country first. So unfortunately, even though it may well be exactly the same level as ours, they never clarify, they never allow English to be accepted as an equivalent GCSE. You always have to do it again in the UK, unfortunately.
Thanks. And Inga, I see you said that you're based in Bradford. So yeah, I'll make sure that there's a link to Bradford colleges. You can do it at there is Bradford College itself, but there's other places in Bradford that you'll be able to do your GCSEs. And I see you've just written something here. Can I take any centre to check my level and to see if there is a need for GCSE?
If you apply for the GCSE English at one of the colleges or one of the community centres, they will then ask you to go through an assessment which will basically look at what level you're at, and they'll recommend the next step, either level 2 English or the GCSE English. Yes, so that's what normally happens when you apply to do the GCSE.
Great, thanks very much, Mohammed. I hope that's answered that. Oh, yeah, it has. Good. Thank you, Inga. Now, we did have a question at the beginning, which was what degrees are linked to what careers, which was quite a broad question. I don't know if we've kind of answered that, or if anyone's got any specific things that they'd like to ask. But Mohammed and Denise, would you like to say a bit more about that? I see, Denise, do you want to start?
Yes, I can do. If you are thinking about doing a particular course, the course material, when you're reading about the content of the course and the entry requirements, there is always a section on careers as well. So it will always give you some information about where past students have gone to from that particular degree subject. The other things that you can do is on the PowerPoint at the moment, on the screen in front of you, there's a link there to some pamphlets that tell you what careers fit from different subject areas. So there's a whole wealth of different leaflets. You look up the subjects that you're thinking about doing at degree level, and then what it'll do is it'll tell you exactly what kind of careers you could go into immediately from that degree. And then it also gives you careers degree could be useful where you might need to do some additional study as well. But it's a really good start point to have a look at that. The other thing to consider is there are a number of careers that you can get into with any degree. So it might be worthwhile looking at those as well. So as a careers advisor, you can have any degree to get into, but that can also apply to things like marketing, to things like business, that's areas that you could go into with any degree. Would you like to add anything to that, Mohammed?
No, I think it's just really thinking about where your strengths are, like I said earlier, and building on that, and moving from there.
That's great, thank you. There's lots to think about here. So have we got any questions? We've had some really good questions today. So thank you very much. Has anybody got anything else that they'd like to say? We can, as you've seen, we can cover all sorts of different areas. Do feel free to put them in the chat. Mohammed and Denise, is there anything you'd like to add that we haven't really covered today, which you think might be useful for people?
Yeah, I mean, all I can add is that, you know, we do have taster sessions in terms of the different programs within the Lifelong Learning Centre, and it's always a good idea to sign up to one of those, just to give you an idea about what the different programs may involve, and get from the actual people who are going to be teaching on those programs. So that's an idea there as well.
Thanks, Mohammed. And Inga's just asked a great question of how do I book a one-to-one appointment, and as Denise said, it's on the screen now, so we've got some lovely photos of Mohammed and Denise here. So you can contact us either by ringing this number. Probably the best way actually is to email adviceandguidance@leeds.ac.uk, and then you'll be asked to fill in a form with a few more details, which will be passed on to Mohammed or Denise, and then you can arrange, someone will contact you to arrange a time where you can talk on the phone to Mohammed and Denise, and it's usually about 45 minutes, really talking through all these different options. Mohammed and Denise, do you want to say more about what the guidance interview involves? Sorry, Mohammed, do you want to tell us a little bit more? Or
sorry, it's gone. I'll try today.
All right, hello.
Would you like to take a little bit?
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, what we do is take a holistic approach. What we will do is take stock of, help you take stock of where you are in terms of your work experience, in terms of your education experience, and try and help you make an action plan in terms of where next, what the options are, and how it may affect you financially in terms of benefits, in terms of if you're already working and you're thinking about leaving work and going into full-time study, part-time study. So we take the whole, if you have children, if there's childcare available. So we take a holistic approach in helping you to plan your future using an action plan. Do you want to add anything, Denise?
No, really, I think you've covered it all. Just to say, it's just personal to you. We'll just look at your circumstances and help you as we can. Ultimately, we'll lay out all the different options for you, and then it's up to you to pick the one that suits your needs the best.
Thanks very much, Denise and Mohammed. Joe's just asked an excellent question. Not sure if you'll be able to answer this, but is it known how much of next year will be online rather than on campus? So Mohammed or Denise, do you want to answer this?
Yeah, I mean, the current thinking is that at least some of the teaching would be on campus, so it would be more of a blended approach where some seminars and tutorials would be on campus, but any lectures would be online, if that makes sense to you.
So yeah, I hope that, sorry, we can't be more specific at the moment. It's, as Mohammed said, it's looking fairly sure that some of it will be online, but just to kind of reassure people, our job at the Lifelong Learning Centre is to support people in their learning. So it would be online learning in a very supportive way. So yeah, just if people are thinking about that in different ways. Okay, thank you, Joe. Have we got any other questions so far? We've had some brilliant questions, so thank you everybody for that. So I think we've probably covered anything. Like we said earlier, we will send you the information from today's session and also all the slides, so you know how to access the advice and guidance service. So I'm going to stop the recording now, but before we go, we've just got a few more things to ask you. So